Almost round tripped you there. So, welcome one, welcome all to DeFi, crypto, and airdrops. I am Mike, aka Veteran Crypto, and today we are going to talk about the new AERO platform that's coming out, and also have a little bit of. Let me pull this up. A little bit of other alpha to put out, but I really want to focus on AERO and the AERO token. Anybody that watches the blockchain basement, Discover Crypto, our channel, knows that we've been bullish on Aerodrome, especially Drew. He's the one that brought it to my attention initially. But we've been bullish on it for quite some time. All the way, even before it pumped up to $2.20 and then dumped down into the 30-cent range. In our communities, we were telling people it's not going anywhere. It's a solid project. Keep stacking. And we were stacking in the 30-cent range, and it came back up. Recently was above $1 again, and now with the rest of the markets pulled back to around 90 cents. But that being said, we have been teaching people how to use the Aerodrome platform to provide liquidity in DeFi. We've been teaching how to do the locks to where you earn a weekly revenue or weekly fees on different in different crypto assets depending on how you use those locks. And really maximizing the earning that you can derive from holding these assets. And that's what we're all about here at DeFi, Crypto, and Airdrops, is how to earn with your crypto, with your liquidity, being the bank, being able to lend out that liquidity so that people can, do different functions. They can do swaps and they can borrow and, things like that. So that they can, use their assets. So basically it allows all of us to be the bank for each other, and we earn the fees. We earn the interest as opposed to the banks traditionally. Traditionally we stick our money in a bank account. Sorry about that. We stick our money in a bank account. The bank lends it out and makes a shit ton of money, and we don't get shit for it. That's traditional. Now we are in a position to where we can earn ourselves. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. All right, quick shout out to everybody in the chat. We got Black Ice. Let's fucking go. I love it. Green Day Profits. What's up? What's up, brother? Kyle Watts. Got a new name, Meme Ticks. How's it going, brother? And we got Silver Badferg. Victor, I hope you're learning some good stuff in the Discord. I was glad I was able to take some time with you, an hour or two the other day and answer some of your questions in the Discord. Green Day Profits, let's go AERO. Hell yes. Brian Wild, what's up, brother? And Sheba Mac. Good to see y'all. All right, so let's jump into this. So first and foremost, this is our channel, DeFi, Crypto, and Airdrops. Like, follow, share, all the usual jazz. Of course, our brother channels. On Wednesdays, I have Jake Call and David from DeFi University. If you're in DeFi, two very, very good individuals to follow. They have a lot of really great content on their channels. And, Jake Call is, of course, the founder of Metrics Finance. Which is, you can find a link in our description. It's a very useful tool to track your portfolio and simulate positions for liquidity pools, borrowing, lending, things like that. So highly suggest checking those things out. And there's a free version of that. So, I'm not just shilling that so that, you go spend money. There's a free version of it. David at DeFi University has some free, information that you can start learning about DeFi. And then, of course, here in our channel, we have the DeFi Academy that will teach you the basics. Moving right along, again, here's all the links, just if you're interested. And this we launched about a week ago. We started a newsletter, and we have been nailing it. So DeFi Wize with a Z is the website. And this is this morning's, I'll give you a quick sneak peek. This is our newsletter. And so basically we just go over, what's going on in the crypto markets today. It's a 5-10 minute read when you're having your morning coffee. TradFi markets, the outlook. Here's a summary, the buy and sell ranges if you're, into trading, or looking to, pick up some deals. Today, it dipped a little bit lower than this. Ethereum, we almost nailed exactly. So far in the past week, tomorrow will be a week. we've been nailing these price points. And then, of course, just kind of go over what's going on in the markets, what's bullish, what's bearish, give on some of the top coins. But yeah, just give some ranges, on some of the top pools that people in our community ask for. And then just, of course, different topics. So this is what we're going to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump on into this. So Jesse Pollock, somebody I would definitely follow if you're into base, Aerodrome, but why you should start using base, Farcaster, Zora, and Base app. And I want to preface this. This is not confirmed. There's a lot of talk about the potential of a base token. Coinbase came out and, Base came out and said that they are looking highly at the potential of launching a base token. And so, of course, a lot of people started talking, is there going to be an airdrop? None of that's been released yet, but as we know, the DeFi crypto and airdrops, Jeff, that's my co-host on the channel, usually airdrops are dropped to people that use the protocols and that use the different functionality that are on that chain. So if there's going to be a base token and there is going to be an airdrop using Aerodrome, using Farcaster, what else? Using the Base app, using base.name, Guild, Zora, the new Base app itself with the socials and things like that. So your on-chain score, all of these things could play into how much of an airdrop you get. So if you're bullish on base, and I'm not saying ape into base plays, for months and months and months, I've been saying that base is the play. Base is gearing up and is being purpose built for retail and institutional DeFi and RWAs. I don't know how else to say it. You can look at other chains and they're all over the place. They're trying to do a little of this, a little bit of gaming, a little bit of AI, a little bit, and they're spreading themselves thin. Everything that I see, the moves that Base is doing, is all purpose. Like it's all very purposely executed to be a part of DeFi and RWAs. Specifically, I don't see them doing much else. Let's see. Yeah, Zora did have a good day today. And Avantis, actually, the perps DEX on base, doesn't get a whole lot of attention. But I, for one, have some Avantis staked and earning. I have for months now. While all the attention was on Hyperliquid and on what's that other one? The Binance one that everybody had a hard on for forever. While they were gobbling up all the attention, I was messing around with Avantis. So I am hyper focused on base. So anyway, enough about that. Airdrop, check. Next up, AIXBT, another great account to follow. JP Morgan deposits tokens live on base. So if you didn't hear about this, JP Morgan, their JP Morgan token or coin, they are building it out on the base network. Again, this is a huge indication. I don't look at prices. I look at actions. Look at what they're doing, not what they're saying. Don't get distracted by price. Price is an emotional trigger. When price goes down, people freak out, people sell. When price goes up, people freak out, people buy. It is a way to manipulate retail price. With the as low as the liquidity is right now and the volume, it's super easy for them to manipulate this market, and that's all they're doing. So back to this. JP Morgan deposits tokens live on Base, processing $10 trillion daily in payment flows. Base becomes the regulated bank chain by default. Aerodrome, Morpho, Uniswap V4 on Base capture bank liquidity first. Coinbase built the compliance moat every bank needs. Base ecosystem trades at 1/20th the value of flows that are about to hit it. Let that sink in. What that tells me is there is a ton of upside potential for a lot of base plays, because of the amount of liquidity is going to be injected. And you need to understand the difference between liquidity flows, where liquidity flows in, on chain and then back off, and sticky TVL. So TVL that comes in on the base chain gets deposited on protocols like Aerodrome and Morpho and things like that and stays there. There's a big difference between the two. So make sure that you understand that. Aster, yes, thank you, that guy. That's the Binance one I was trying to think of. All right, so let's move on from that. Next up, JP Morgan clients can now swap their JP Morgan token for USDC on Base. That sentence should break the internet. JP Morgan payments moves trillions per day. It dwarfs the entire stablecoin industry. This is how 1000x more dollars goes on chain. So let's pull this up real quick and see what it has to say. All right. So how all of this works. You have the Coinbase ecosystem. You have the Coinbase client. They hold USDC stablecoin. The custody stays with the Coinbase custody or self-hosted open system and moves to. All right, so base public settlement layer, instant swap, and this is what they're talking about. And I'll get into some of the functionality on the new AERO platform that's going to be launching Q2 of next year. So basically what they're building out is to where there's going to be cross-chain interoperability, low or no gas fees, and I'll get into that here in a second. I want to make sure I get it right. But on the base app, there's going to be instant swaps. Basically, you just choose, and it doesn't matter what network it's on. You can pick USDC on base and want to buy something or sell it on Arbitrum, and you can just select those, hit a button, and all of the swaps, it will optimize and find the best places to do the swaps, all of that, the cheapest fees, all of it automatically. That is what the new base app is going to have. That is what the new Aerodrome or AERO platform is going to have. It's going to be seamless. And of course, a lot of that functionality is going to be built in natively to the Coinbase platform. I cannot stress enough how powerful this is and how far it puts the base network ahead of almost every other ecosystem when it comes to DeFi and RWAs. The reason being is that it's called a barrier to entry. So imagine your grandma or grandpa that's still writing checks, when they go to the grocery store. They're not tech savvy at all, but they want to earn with their savings or their retirement, and they want to take advantage of DeFi. Right now, the way things sit, doing that is near impossible for them. They don't have the knowledge or the skill set. So, they're not going to be able to know how to onboard their fiat to Coinbase, start a hot or a cold wallet, send that liquidity over to that wallet, connect to a protocol, get into a liquidity pool or lend. It's not going to happen. However, it is a lot easier for them to figure out how to deposit it on Coinbase, be able to click a button and that just tells them, these are your assets. If you want to lend your Bitcoin, if you want to lend your USDC, click here and earn X percent. And all they do is hit one button and it's done. That is removing barriers to entry. That allows people that aren't crypto savvy. It allows people that don't understand this technology to take part in DeFi, and crypto in general. That is how we are going to move to adoption. That is how we're going to onboard the billions of people on this planet to this technology. That's how we're going to educate people on how all of this works. So Base understands this. Coinbase understands this. And Coinbase of course, is sitting at the table with US legislators. And those of you that don't know, the US, they are the leaders in the world on driving innovation. Like it or not, it's they the rest of the world follows what we do. So whenever we draft legislation, whenever we make rules when it comes to finance, traditional finance, and now decentralized finance, the rest of the world is going to mimic what we do. As those rules of the road are developed, they're going to have their own nuances. But for the most part, banks, institutions around the world, they want the same rule book. They don't want to have to deal with complex differences across different jurisdictions. So Coinbase and Base is aligning themselves with the right people to ensure that as they built all of this out already, and what they build moving forward stays in line with that, and they're going to influence the legislators, the politicians in Washington, to ensure that everything lines up. I hope that makes sense. So, yes. So here's the Coinbase ecosystem. Here's the Base app. Here's the JP Morgan ecosystem. So, basically their bank, the bank deposit token, and, their little siloed, ecosystem. So basically the Base app will connect those two siloed ecosystems. So I hope that makes sense. All right, we're going to watch a little video. Hopefully this doesn't, they don't shut me down for this, YouTube, but it's a little bit long. I'll try to fast forward through some of it, but let's share this tab. Let me know if you can't hear it. Oh, you can't hear it? Hold on. What's going on here? Let's do this. Let's try this again. All right. All right, we're good now? All right, cool. The best place to set up any token anywhere. Or a single platform to grow your capital. And launch a global marketplace to introduce and scale new tokens. Let's start with trading. I love how he's digging on Uniswap. Holy, what the hell? You're not hearing it again? All right, let's try this. Let me just share the whole screen. All right. Let's do entire screen. All right, let's try this again. Man, what is going on with the frickin' sound? I have, like, my sound, like, pumped up all the way. Alright, well, let's do this. I will we'll just jump through it. Alright, so basically what he's talking about right here is this is swaps. You know, so, like, if you wanna trade and this is what I was talking about, is it can go it basically does the bridging, it takes care of the fees, it takes care of everything for you. Yes, I can share the link. Alright. So let's do this real quick. So this is something that is gonna be very, very, it's gonna save you a lot of money, a lot of time, and again, is gonna remove those barriers to entry. So, you know, in the, on the new AERO platform, the swaps are going to be it doesn't matter what chain, you know, because it's gonna launch on ETH mainnet, it's gonna be on Base, of course, it's gonna be on, Circle's Arc, and a bunch of other chains. So it really doesn't matter, you know, where you're what you're wanting to do, what token you're wanting to buy, what swap you're wanting to do. It's just going to optimize it all for you. That you know, that's in a nutshell what he's talking about. Let's actually share another screen here. All right, let's try this. Let me know if that's any better. Let me know if you can hear it now. All right. So what he was talking about there is he was actually going over how those of you that have locks on Aerodrome currently, you know that there's a market for those. So if say that you have locks, you know, obviously it's locked for however long you locked it for, everything from a week to 4 years. Say that you have an emergency and you need that liquidity. You know, you need to pay a bill, you know, fix your car, whatever it is, you need to get access to that. There is a market where you can sell those locks, you know, at a loss. You know, you might take a, you know, 20, 30, 40% hit depending on what somebody's willing to pay for it, but there's a market for those and you can, you know, sell those. As of right now, that is not on Aerodrome. That's on separate, you know, separate sites. The new AERO platform is going to have a marketplace built into it. So you can buy and sell locks. Me personally, unless it's a pretty large discount that I'm going to get on it, I'm not gonna buy an AERO lock. Reason being, unless it's under 2,500 AERO. Reason being is there's something called a flight school bonus. And with the flight school bonus, say that I deposit 2,500 AERO, I'll get up to a 50% bonus on that lock if I max lock for 4 years. And there's some ways that you can boost your flight school bonus, but I won't get into that. But you can get up to a $1,250 or not dollar AERO flight school bonus on that 2,500 AERO lock, and the that is basically like a free airdrop, and it's a separate lock. So now you have those two separate locks that are earning and compounding a weekly yield for you over however long the locks are for. You would need to get at least a 50%, and of course the math is going to be a little bit different, but you would need a pretty substantial discount to buy an existing lock and not get that flight school bonus and make it worthwhile. I hope that makes sense. So if you have any questions, jump in the Discord. I'm more than happy to get into detail on that. But I don't see the upside unless it's under 2,500 AERO, because then you don't get the flight school bonus. So if it's a smaller lock and you want to buy some smaller locks at a discount and then add those to your existing locks, because you can combine them, that might be something smart. But again, it's you're buying AERO, and you're not getting the advantage of that flight school bonus. So me personally, I'll pass on it, but maybe some of a way out there to game that whole system. So now he's talking about earn, and so a, a lot of times you're going to have to jump across to different dexes and platforms, protocols, to do a lot of different things. The new AERO platform is going to, again, it's going to centralize all of that. It's going to allow you to perform those functions and those tasks on the actual platform. It's going to be a one-stop shop for pretty much everything that you're going to want to do in DeFi, to include RWAs. So I was reading some stuff earlier, where they're going to have institutional pools and that are comprised of RWAs. So actually, let me jump into this. Yeah, full cross-chain liquidity layer for MetaDex 03 operating system. You'll be able to swap tokens between Base, Optimism, Ethereum, Arbitrum, etc. in one single place. No jumping apps or bridging yourself. Slipstream, meta swaps, native cross-chain swapping. Here we go. Institutional grade verified pools. Big institutions, banks, and funds, like Wisdom Tree, ETF funds, all those sorts of things. Anything tokenized, all the RWA stuff that we love so much. They're basically going to have what they're going to call safe pools, and that are allowed to use for trillions in RWAs and stablecoins. So it will be a way that you can earn yield, just another way that you'll be able to earn yield on stable coins and your tokenized real world assets. So say over on the Plume portal, I've already seen some integrations where through Morpho, the Plume network is already connected to the Base network. So if that ends up becoming more robust, we'll see. But as those of you that watch the channel know, that Plume is purpose-built DeFi and RWA network, and it's getting bigger, again, by the day. But there is, and it's not just on Plume, but there's a platform called Nest. Nest is institutional grade RWAs. So tokenized credit, private credit, tokenized US treasuries, basically just anything and everything tokenized. And you can deposit your liquidity there and get issued a token that's it's usually called like in alpha or in credit, things like that, and you can earn yield like 20-30% yield on just holding that token. You can then take that token and you can lend it out to earn yield on more yield on it. So you can earn 20-30% from holding it, then you can lend it out to earn yield on top of that. And there's just a lot of these advanced strategies that you can use to lever up the earning that you can do with a lot of this. So again, a lot of this is going to be on, natively, on this AERO platform. And I really wish that the sound was working. I'm going to have to do some troubleshooting on this. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. Yeah, here's this. So like Merkle is another protocol where I go, and it is kind of an aggregator. So it allows you to see your rewards that you have on different networks, and you can claim it. So actually, you know what? I'll bring it up real quick. Merkle. All right. So you can go to the dashboard and you can see, like right now, I don't have to go hunting it down. You can come here and you can see on, because I connected my wallet on the base network, I have $1.23 out there that I could claim. I got 28 cents on Plume I can claim. And, Optimism, Ethereum, if I had anything on there, I could claim that. So basically it just lets you know across all the different chains, if you have anything that is just out there hanging on some protocol somewhere that maybe you forgot about. Now, if you go to opportunities on Merkle, you can see that, you can basically look at the Plasma network, you can look at Arbitrum, you can look at, XDC, wherever, and you can look at the different opportunities out there to earn. So let's see. Let's filter this. Some of these I would ignore. These high APR things to me are just kind of sketch. I'm perfectly fine with earning, 30-40% APR. I think that it's, relatively safe. A lot of times you get baited in with these APRs, and then you end up, in other ways, you end up, losing your liquidity, just through like divergence loss or, depending on what type of DeFi, it is. But there's some of these that you can go to, and they're just, different liquidity pools. And, you're of course going to want to look at, the daily rewards, what people are earning, what the TVL is. Because yeah, some of these, they have no TVL. So obviously you don't want to put your liquidity in there, because getting it back out, you might, fall victim to slippage. When there's low liquidity, it often you're not able to pull out, all of your liquidity. So I always go for at least 250K of liquidity in a DeFi position, as far as TVL, or even better, 500K. If there's 500K in there, unless you're a whale, and you're depositing hundreds of thousands of dollars into these pools, you're not going to have any issues getting your liquidity in and out. There's a deep enough liquidity that you're not going to get dinged. So anyway, that's Merkle. So what's a couple other things that we can talk about real quick before we wrap this up? So Velodrome and Aerodrome. So those of you that don't know, Velodrome, the team, actually are the ones that built out Aerodrome. Aerodrome, for whatever reason, took off, and Velodrome hasn't done as much. So the tokenomics of this new token, the new AERO token, is going to be 95% is going to go to AERO holders. 5% is going to go to VELO holders. And it's from what I can tell, is going to be a 1-for-1 swap. So if you have locks and all of that, it should automatically swap. What that the mechanics of that's going to look like. I'll let you know as I find these things out. But you are going to those of you that hold AERO, and those of you that hold Velodrome are going to get the new token. Me myself, I am actually on this dip. I just bought another 2,000 AERO because I'm thinking about doing another lock and putting it into the VE AERO Maxi Relay to where it automatically votes for me each week as a long-term play. With this new announcement, I mean, I already saw, and Drew has shouted this out a couple of times, where he sees where Aerodrome could easily go to $10 per token. We've already seen $2.20. Before any of this news came out, before anything really bullish came out about AERO, we've already seen it go to that. So long term, if institutions are using the new AERO platform, JP Morgan, it already is injecting liquidity. I don't see this going anywhere. They're not going to let it fail. They're not going to let their liquidity, drop off the face of the earth. So the more institutional money that we see pour into these protocols, the more likely it is that they're going to last. Because JP Morgan, if they're jumping in, they're a whale. That's, to me, that's very bullish long term. So what I'm looking to do is get max exposure to AERO. And, of course, I'm not going to, all in. I'm not going to sell everything else and, get in. But I have AERO. All right. Sorry about that. So yeah, basically I'm just wanting to do another lock, and I'm going to stick it in that VE AERO Maxi Relay. And if I end up say with 5,000 AERO in there, and it's worth $10 a token, I have $50,000 worth of liquidity in there. And if I'm making 30%, is kind of what the average is in there. So let's see, if I'm making just on that one lock 50,000 times 0.30, that's 15 grand a year. And that's just if it goes to $10. So that's an extra $15,000 or $1,250 a month that I earn free money, residual income, just from having that lock and that money flowing in each month. So, if AERO ends up, at some point going up to $20 or $30, that multiple just goes up. So instead of 15 grand, if it goes to $20, over time, of course, I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, but that might be $30,000 that I make per year off of that, or 60 or 90, whatever. I am looking long term. I honestly believe with the way that the crypto market has evolved, and with institutional money and governments making these rules and legislation, we have to shift our mindset from this get rich quick in crypto. The past cycles was all retail. It was all emotion. It was all FOMO and FUD. We're seeing already, we're already seeing that this bull market, yeah, there's been some outliers. Bitcoin has done well. The ISO tokens, they had a nice pump, last December. All of alts had a nice pump last December, and then everything bled off. We have not seen the parabolic alt season, and we have to be prepared that we might not. We need to start thinking about a long-term mindset and getting into these projects that are going to, stand the test of time. That these institutions are actually building on, that these institutions are actually stacking, not just talking about, but actually stacking, not testing, Not, hey, we have a partnership and we're going to, test out their network. I'm talking about actually utilizing the platform, actually depositing liquidity onto these protocols, actually depositing their Bitcoin, actually depositing their ETH, actually depositing their, their not NFTs, their real world asset, their tokenized real world assets, that liquidity. That is what I'm looking for. Real utility, real adoption, not hype, not maybe, not thinking about it, real utility. So I see that with AERO. And that's why I'm taking the stance I am with it. I see a little bit of that with Plume. I see a little bit of that with, a lot of the projects I'm invested in. Morpho, with the Bitcoin loans that are being offered directly on Coinbase. I see Base being a huge part of the future of DeFi and, and that merge with TradFi. And then of course, cross chain, are there going to be, other chains that are part of it? Absolutely. However, I see Base as being one of the top, if not the top chain for DeFi and RWAs. All right, let's go through some of the questions real quick because I've been yammering on. Let's see. Oh yeah, share the link so we can watch later. Let me pull that up real quick. Boom. So let's share, copy link, paste. All right. So there's the link to the. It's about a 12-minute watch, but huge. And I apologize for not being able to, for you guys not to be able to hear the sound. But Ellie, I dropped that in the chat if you want to take a look at that. So AERO will be on all chains potentially. So I'm not sure if you're talking about the token, but yes, there might be a wrapped version of AERO, on other chains, which I would not doubt at all. Just because, for that liquidity to be able to move, or for, them to be able to have AERO as an offering. So if, say there's a protocol that's on, let's just say Arbitrum, and it's Arbitrum only, they'll have a wrapped version of AERO so that if you want, to lend, if they're going to have the ability for you to lend or borrow that token, they're going to have a version of it. So yes, Victor, I could totally see that happening. So like Uni pretty much. So yes, Uniswap is multi-chain. However, there's a lot of shortcomings when it comes for Uniswap. And I think that's why they're freaking out right now. And why they announced that whole initiative where they're going to do basically profit sharing with token holders, is they're trying to keep people on their platform, and keep people's liquidity on the platform. But the problem I see with Uniswap is unless they can find a way to remove the barriers to entry, like the Base network is, using Coinbase and the new Base app, I see them losing market share. I cannot stress enough the impact that ease of use, UX, UI, user experience, user interfaces have on onboarding people, retail into new technologies. The internet, cell phones, all of that, there was a learning curve for society. And the majority of humans on this planet have no idea what crypto is. I mean, if you walked up to somebody on the street and was like, would you like one Bitcoin, or, would you like this new iPhone? They'd probably take the new iPhone because they have no clue that they're giving up $100,000. Most people don't know about crypto, let alone, even the value of Bitcoin, let alone how to buy it or how to use DeFi to earn with it. I mean, that's like, giving a freaking monkey a calculator and, telling him to find pi or something like that. Honestly, I mean, that's where most of society is when it comes to this technology. We need to understand how early we are. But with that comes risk. A lot of the tokens we hold, myself included, a lot of them can go to zero, and will they? Probably. But all it takes is one or two cherry picks, and that's going to be around. And I think AERO is one of those. All it takes is one or two that you get in early and you earn with it and just stack. And when it gets traction, that's when it's going to all, the stars are going to align. It's like, yeah, you might, lose a couple of grand or something like that on some bad picks. I mean, I know that right now, Casper, I was super bullish on Casper. Still kind of bullish, but not as much as other projects I'm in. But I still have a decent sized bag of Casper, just in case it's a moon bag. But I have sold some of my Casper to plus up, bags like AERO and Bitcoin and things like that. I was a little too heavy into Casper. It was my largest hold for a while. So, I deleveraged. Sometimes you just got to take it on the chin. I made a bad choice. Can't win them all. But, all right, let's see. Punk Drummer just downloaded the base wallet to start my trip into DeFi. AERO will be my first, probably. Congratulations, brother. So, it's if you're who I think you are, if you need any help or have any questions, jump into the Discord. We're more than happy to help you out. Just make sure you're talking to, one of the admins, or, make sure you're talking to me. We're really good at getting the scammers out of there, but I don't want you to get taken advantage of. Always, always, always verify who you're talking to, and never, ever, ever give anybody access to your wallet, even if it's me. I don't care if we're on a video call. Do not give anybody access to your wallet. Don't give them your seed phrase, none of that. All right. Seth Shepard, do I need 2,500 AERO to start? If you're going to do a lock, Seth, I would highly suggest that you wait until you have over 2,500 AERO. The reason being, and there's a video, on our channel that talks about the AERO locks. You get what's called a flight school bonus if you do a lock of 2,500 AERO or more, which is basically a free 50% plus up. So like if you do a 2,500 AERO lock and you max lock it for 4 years, you're going to get around a 1,250 AERO free airdrop in a matching lock. So another 4-year lock. So basically you just magically, it takes about a month to hit, but once that pays out, you right off the bat, you made a 50% plus up of your bag, basically. So of profit, because it's free AERO. And both of those locks, the 2,500 and the 1,250, weekly earn free AERO, and it just compounds. So, you might only, earn like 30, 40 bucks, off of each of those, or, like a total of 30 or 40 bucks, but it goes back in. And then, that plus up those bags to where it's not 2,500 and, 1,250 anymore. You'll have like another 20 or 30 AERO, per lock. But then the next week, you're going to earn a little bit more. And then the next week, a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And I know I started out with my initial lock was 5,100 AERO. I got about a 2,600 flight school bonus. And that was about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. And now I have about 11,000 AERO in my locks. So I started out with 5,100. I've over doubled in a year. I've over doubled the amount of AERO I have in those locks because of the airdrop and because of the compounding yield. I hope that sinks with you, that of how powerful that is. And that's as long as AERO doesn't go to zero. That's, huge, because there's no risk. I'm getting full price appreciation if AERO goes up. Of course I get full price exposure if the price goes down as well. But again, I only suggest that you do locks the AERO token and the new AERO platform. Just because, again, you're locking, and especially if you're locking for 4 years, you're gambling on the fact that AERO is going to do better, or going to be a higher price point in 4 years than it is now. And me personally, that's what I see, and I'm willing to take that gamble. So anyway, I want the most APY. Me personally, I go for slow and steady. So I do have some plays where, I try to make, like 500% or, 300% APR. Don't get me wrong, but it's a small percentage of my portfolio. I like to stick almost exclusively to lending, because you can lend out your long-term hold bags, or your bags that you're planning on selling if we ever get a pump, because you can pull them out at any time. It doesn't lock, it doesn't do anything like that. You can just go to someplace like Aave, go someplace like Morpho. You can lend it out. You can earn, maybe 8%, 5%, 10%, something like that, 20%, and just let it build. And that's just, free, OPM, other people's money. They're just paying fees for being able to borrow your liquidity, and you just let it grow. And if the price goes up, you get full price appreciation. I love lending. Staking, same thing. You can stake it, you can earn. Problem is, a lot of times with staking, there's cool down periods and stuff where some of them are a couple of hours, some of them are a couple of weeks. So pay attention to that. I'm not a big fan of when it gets locked up or there's a cool down like that, because if the markets start to pump, I want to know I can pull that out and sell it if I want. And then after that is full range pools. And that's what I'm in right now. Is I actually threw my Bitcoin and my AERO that I plan on selling. Not my Bitcoin, I'm not going to be selling that, but I'm stacking free crypto. So I have those on Aerodrome and full range pools. My AERO USDC pool, I'm earning 30% APR. So 24/7, 365, as people are swapping between AERO and USDC, or USDC and AERO, depending on which way they swap, I'm earning fees. It's, might be 50 cents here, 20 cents there, whatever. But while I'm working on the property, working on the channel, doing whatever, it's just ticking, it just filling that. I'm just earning fees just consistently. And that is what I'm using to farm, to create a bag to do another Aerodrome log. And to be honest, I'm probably just going to keep doing that. I might just keep earning it every time that I have 2,500 AERO available. I'm just going to do another lock. And because I get that flight school bonus. Again, that is an instant 50% profit. Again, I'll say that that's if you believe in AERO long term, because you're locking for 4 years. You need to understand that. All right, what do we got? I actually didn't know Plume was on base. It's not necessarily on base, but through Morpho. Like if you go to the Plume portal, let's actually go there real quick. All right. Let's go to the Plume portal. All right. Let's throw this up. All right. So this is the Plume portal. So this is the ecosystem that they're building out. See, this is tokenized gold. And right here, you got Morpho. You got the Morpho RE7 PUSD vault. PUSD is Plume's stablecoin that's backed 1-to-1 with USDC. So, it's only 5%, but you can put your stablecoin in here and earn 5+%. Here's that Nest Alpha Vault, that in Nest that I was telling you about, the tokenized institutional grade assets. you can earn 10.5%, just steady. And that's from BlackRock, Blackstone, Investco, just big institutions. That's who's paying this out. You have the in basis. You can earn 8% on that. But yeah, you can lend PUSD on Mystic Finance and earn 15%. It doesn't seem like a lot. A lot of people they want to make a lot of money fast, but making 15% on a stable coin is huge. I mean, if you have 100 grand, I mean that's 15 grand that you're making per year on that. So 10% in traditional markets is considered amazing. And that's taking on risk because you're buying stocks and things like that go up and down. A stable coin, that's a pretty safe bet, or about as safe as you're going to get. So anyway, but here is the whole ecosystem. So I won't scroll down the whole thing, but there's 74 different protocols that are live on Plume right now, and there's over 200 other ones that are in the process of launching. But if you come right there, Morpho lending, this is the connection between the base network and the Plume network. So it's Morpho Lite. It doesn't have everything that's on there, but it does have some of the lending and borrowing, and a lot of it has to do with Plume assets. So it's leveraging Morpho to for those assets. So anyway, it's just that is an initial connection that I could see growing over time. And then let's check out Nest while we're here. Because this one, I have a bunch of different advanced strategies on how to leverage this to earn. So Nest, Nest Alpha, you can earn 28.4% on on just holding this. And let's actually click on it because I want to show you what assets are in here. So this one, it's 51% private credit and 49% American oil and gas. So you're investing in tokenized private credit and tokenized oil and gas. You got the Mineral Vault, Liquid Stone from Black Opal, and Katsu invoice financing. So these are the institutions, and here's the custodians. So this is all done in line with regulations, the regulations that are being drafted out. This is institutional grade investing, on Ethereum and on Plume. So yeah, this one right here, right now, the token price is $1.03, but you earn this. The cool thing about this is you can then take this and let's go to, where is it that, let me pull something up real quick. Give me 1 second. I want to check this. There we go. Strats. All right. Mystic. That's where it's at. All right. So let's do this. So we'll go to Mystic. No, that's not it. All right, let's go back to here. There it is. All right. So I'm going to give you a little bit of alpha here. So you're already earning 28.4%. on just, buying this tokenized, oil and gas and private credit, stable, pretty stable investment. Now you can come over here to Mystic Finance and say that you want to earn, let's see. So right here, Nest Alpha, in Alpha. So you can go down here and in Alpha, the collateral asset. So you can use this to lend out and earn yield on, and then you can borrow against it if you want. So the borrow is 8.26%. So in Alpha, so basically you can earn two sets of yield. One from the, here on Nest. You can do it from lending in Alpha. And then, of course, you want to make sure that the borrow, this 8.26, which already just with this, like 8.26. So basically you're still making 20%, because if you're making 28.4% and it's costing you 8.26% to borrow, then it just, kind of cancels out. And so you end up with, you're still making 20% plus whatever you're making on depositing that in Alpha on Mystic so that you can borrow. So let's say, so this is just a way that you can lever up, to as far as, kind of put your assets to work instead of just letting them sit there. So this is just something that I'm really excited about when it comes to Plume, in the Plume portal, is just all of these different protocols and how they're all interconnected as far as the assets and the different ways that you can use those assets to earn. All right. So let's jump in. Well, I'm thinking even if AERO falls another 50 or 60%, I'll be earning AERO. So when it goes back up to $1, I will be at least breaking even during the next year. That's the way that I look at it. With that long-term mindset, when assets that I believe in, I don't pay attention to the price. I look at progress. I look at, what they're building, if they're continually building, if they're continually onboarding, if institutions are, adopting, like actually adopting, not just talking about it, not just social media posts, what ifs and, things like that, real actual adoption. That's what I look at. And so, yeah, no, absolutely. It happened already. AERO went from $2.20 down to like 30 cents or 34 cents, and everyone was freaking out and, wanting to sell their AERO and, wanting to, jump ship. And I get it. You got to do what you got to do. But I bought more. A lot of people in our community, they bought more. And even right now, AERO is in the 90-cent range. That's still a 3x from, where, the people that were buying it at the bottom, on the max FUD, they're 3x. And, that's the AERO is by far my largest bag. And I just keep stacking because it earns so well. But yes, absolutely. Over the next couple of years, I see, people looking at AERO at $1 at 90 cents and, people saying, I wish I would have gotten in, and, you see all the memes, the people in the lines, like, Bitcoin at, 1,500 or $15,000 and, nobody's in line. And then Bitcoin at $100,000 and it's just, people fighting to, to buy it. That's the way it is. Nobody wants to buy when something's dumping. Nobody wants to buy when something's down. People want to buy when they see green candles. That's emotion. That's how institutions are sucking the liquidity out of the markets right now. They're pumping the markets, getting everybody to FOMO in. As soon as they see that, people have, kind of, maxed out the liquidity that they have, then they turn the markets around and they dump it. Whenever they see, people taking, leverage, that's all they're doing is they're just sucking the liquidity out of the market, and all the profits they're making, they're just putting into Ethereum. They're putting it into Bitcoin. I mean, you can look at the data. You can see what they're doing. That's what's going on in these markets right now. There's a huge wealth transfer. Everyone was talking about the huge wealth transfer was going to be from institutions to retail, and that's not how it's playing out. They've entered the crypto market. They know how to play this game better than we do. And they are sucking the liquidity out of retail and adding to their bags. Institutions are getting richer, and smart money's getting richer. And the people that are allowing their emotions to manipulate their, what moves they're making, they're that liquidity. People that are putting in the time, putting in the research, educating themselves, they're the ones that are going to profit in these markets. All right. So let's jump back over here. Let's see what else we got on expand to non-EVM chains. Let's get back to the base, to the new AERO platform. So eventually you'll be able to trade Solana tokens, TON tokens, and others inside the same AERO interface. So again, it's going to be a one-stop shop. No matter what you want to do, no matter what token you want exposure to, potentially, if it's interoperable with these other chains, you'll be able to access liquidity pools on other chains and other protocols. It's going to be a one-stop shop for everything DeFi and RWA. You can have all of your, you can have your AERO and your Morpho and all your base plays on there earning, and your Bitcoin, on Morpho and, whatnot. And you can be earning yield. And then as that yield builds, you can say, you know what? I see something cool over there on Solana, and I want to use my liquidity to, enter in that position, from, the OPM, the other people's money that I've earned. With a couple of clicks, you don't need to go to a bridge. You don't need to go to D-Bridge. You don't need to worry about gas. You don't need to worry about any of that. You just say, I want to take this liquidity. I want to put it in over onto this, click, and it just does it seamlessly for you. That is how easy this is going to be. I can't explain how bullish I am about this. So the end goal, normal people will just see swap and never need to know or care which blockchain anything is on, how much the gas fees is, anything like that. That is the future of DeFi. That is the future of RWAs, is simplicity, is retail being able to onboard their liquidity onto centralized exchanges, like it or not. That's, a lot of these exchanges are probably going to become banks. I've seen Coinbase making moves to do that. I mean, I honestly believe that a lot of these exchanges like Coinbase and other ones that will probably launch in the future are going to be banks. You already see it with things like Uphold. You already see it with Moonwell, EtherFi, where you can get cards, physical cards to where you can spend your crypto and use them as savings accounts, high yield savings accounts. All of that is coming. All of that is the future of finance. We are here early. We are here at the beginning of it all. And personally, I don't care about other narratives. I don't care about AI. I don't care about gaming. I don't care about any of that. The amount of liquidity and the amount of volumes that is going to move through DeFi and RWAs is going to dwarf. It's going to be trillions. I mean, just the JP Morgan, just what they're onboarding onto base now is trillions of dollars in volume per month. That is huge. That's they're going to move more value in a month on the base network than the entire crypto market cap. The entire crypto market cap right now. Let's take a look at that. I want you all to understand the gravity of all this. So the current market cap, $3.3 trillion. There is more liquidity that is going to be moved for the one use case, JP Morgan, moving that value on the base network per month than the entire market cap, almost double the entire market cap of crypto. Let that sink in for a minute. That includes Bitcoin. That is why I'm bullish on Base. That is why I'm bullish on Aerodrome. That's why I'm bullish on DeFi and RWAs. Watch what they're doing, not what they're saying. Ignore price as long as you're in solid assets. If you're in meme coins, absolutely pay attention to price. But if you're in good, solid assets, if you're in Ethereum, if you're in Bitcoin, if you're in AERO, if you're in Morpho, if you're in things like Plume, understand what you're invested in. Understand, yes, all of these can go to zero. Do I think they'll all go to zero? Absolutely not. You only have to get a couple right. It's just like trading. The best traders, 70 to 80% of the time, they get it right. They don't always get it right. You just have to get it right more than you get it wrong. And that's how you're going to make money. And of course, learning DeFi and learning how to passively earn on your bags. The whole time I've been talking to you all here, my crypto has been earning. It's not a ton. I mean, I'm in very low risk positions right now because I want to be able to access that liquidity quickly. But I'm making about $100 a day on lending, full range pools, staking, just really, really low risk plays that I can pull out at any time. Doesn't seem like a lot, $100 a day. It's more than most people make at a job, a 9-to-5 job. I mean, that's $3,000 a month of guaranteed income that I can use. Of course, that's $3,000 at current value. If crypto pumps, that $3,000 might become $6,000. Historically, all of that crypto that I've earned over this past year, if prices go up, all of that crypto I've stacked goes up too. So if I was earning $1,000 a month and, in that crypto that I earned 3X's, all those months of $1,000 a month are now $3,000 a month. That's the beauty of DeFi. So we'll do a couple more questions and we'll cut this off. Seth, DeFi, crypto, and airdrop. I want to do that lock. What is the minimum? Again, up to you, but to get the flight school bonus, you got to do 2,500 AERO or more. Yep. Josh, thank you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Let me know if you're back in Hawaii. Yeah, you have some Morpho. Perfect. Let's see. Ban time. Who are we banning? who are we banning, Kyle? Oh, well, we got Jeff in the chat. Hey, Jeff, get with me if you're still listening. I need your help to get out of that freaking plasma pool, man. They're holding my $200 hostage. Let's see. Hey, what up, Better Try Again? That sounds a good time. Oh, yeah. Just got back from the archery range with your brother. Ready to fly home tonight. Cool. Yeah, hit me up when you get home, man. Yeah, you need to come up here and visit, man. I got the gun range. I got a bow. We got all kinds of stuff we can do up here. Let's see. That would be awesome if AERO went to $10. Honestly, at this point, I don't see if it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when. With Velo, and AERO merging with JP Morgan, moving the liquidity on the base network. Aerodrome already is 60% of the volume on the whole base network. I just do not see where AERO can't get to $10. And a lot of people like to try to point to the tokenomics, where it's inflationary because of the constant minting of AERO tokens. What they don't get is the full tokenomics. Yes, those AERO tokens are always being minted, and that could change, with this new proposal, with this new merge. But with those AERO tokens being minted, they are going out to pay yield, to the people that are in liquidity pools. They go out to people that have locks, and that those tokens get locked, along with the locks that they have. Anything that's not paid out, 100% of it. There's no team, there's no organization that is profiting off the platform. 100% of all of the AERO that new AERO that comes out goes to pay liquidity providers like me and you, and anything that's not paid out is max locked automatically, and nobody can get that out. It's max locked for 4 years. So a lot of that AERO is being taken out of circulation, and the more people that lock AERO, then it's potentially a supply shock. So I don't know. I'm very bullish on it, and I do not see an issue with AERO going to $10 at some point. Is that going to be tomorrow? No. Is that going to be a year or two from now? Possible. But I definitely see something like that in 3 to 4 years. Just especially once that new the new app launches, or the new protocol launches. KTA and Mamo went sour. Talk about taking it on the chin. Victor, the same thing happened with AERO. I can't stress this enough. It went from $2.20 down to 30 cents. You can't look at price. If you're not bullish on them anymore, if the fundamentals have changed and you want to get out, cut your losses, absolutely. But KTA, I'm still very bullish on it. It still has all the fundamentals still in place. Mamo, I have all my Mamo deposited, on the platform. I earn a couple of bucks of free Bitcoin every day. It's not a lot. It's like $2-3 worth of Bitcoin, but that's $30 of free Bitcoin every month. You add that to my Coinbase card. That every time I go out and buy groceries or get gas, or a lot of my bills, like my cell phone bill and stuff, I put it on that card and just have it automatically pay off at the end of every month. I'm earning another 40 or 50 bucks a month of free Bitcoin on that. I have a couple of other things that I'm earning free Bitcoin on. So I'm earning a couple $100 a month of free Bitcoin. And again, if Bitcoin goes up to $200,000, that $100 a month is now $200 a month of free Bitcoin that I was earning. It's just free money, and then you add that to, the pools that I have, the full range pools and the lending, and, where I'm earning $3,000 a month. It's like, okay, now instead of just 3,000, I'm earning, 3,100 or 3,200. You have to have a long-term mindset if you're really going to change your financial future. Can you hit that 100x or 1000x in a meme coin or something? Maybe. I'm not willing to take that risk. I want to set myself up for good, solid, steady growth. I want to position myself to where, and maybe you don't have the liquidity that I have, or maybe you have more. Maybe your goal should be, I want to make $10 a day. Maybe that's your goal. And you get into liquidity pool positions, full range lending, those safe plays, build it up. get to where you're making $10 a day. All right, now my next goal, I want to make $20 a day, and just keep doing that. Next thing you know, you're going to wake up, and if crypto pumps, if you're making $10 a day and you're sorry about that, but get into the Discord, start to learn how to leverage your crypto, because crypto might, we might not get an alt season. We might be at the bottom of a of a bear market right now. Lower, we don't know. And that you're willing to hold long term, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, AERO, things like that. You should have no problem hodling, but you're earning if price is going down. If the price is going sideways, you're earning. If the price is going up, you're definitely earning, because you're getting price appreciation on everything that you earned while it was going down and sideways and slantways and backways and every other ways. You need to get out of the mindset of getting rich quick. If you really want to get to a point to where you can earn in DeFi. All right. What else we got? Aero inflation will be reduced by 85% per the Dromos updates yesterday. Some alpha. Awesome. Thanks, Alex. So Aero inflation will be reduced by 85% per the Dromos updates yesterday. So the inflation will barely even be a factor in the future. I did not see that. I'll have to verify that, but that means that with the new Aero token, they might cut down the amount that they mint by 85%. That would be huge for those of us that are stacking Aero now. That is a supply squeeze. Fucking appreciate you, brother. Alex, hats off to you. Yes, sufficient enough. That will be very nice if true. Very, very nice. So again, I'll verify that and I'll drop that in the Discord. But yeah, just like, where did it go? I want to make sure. Yeah, Ellie, the Discord can be full of scammers, but our community is amazing. Definitely join in. Yeah, everyone's super helpful in there, and the admins do weed everybody out that is scammy. Yes, Uni is trying to do everything that Arrow already does, and Arrow is about to just go off the chains with all this new functionality that's in that video that I linked in the chat. Go watch that. It's going to put Uniswap to shame. I Uniswap is going to have to find a way to be a part of it, or they're going to get left behind. I do not see how they can compete. I honestly don't. That's why I want to lock in DeFi now. Yep. Now is the time to learn DeFi. Let's see. I would tend to agree, Stan. At this point, if they're able to successfully launch this new Arrow platform, um, it would take a lot for that platform to fail. Being backed by Coinbase and having JP Morgan and all this institutional offerings on it, I cannot see it failing. I just can't. I believe Arrow will have that liquidity during the bear market. That's why I'm choosing Arrow. Same here. again, just because the masses are going to use it because it's going to be easy. 2,500 AERO could be worth a lot in 5 years. Yeah, no, it definitely could. Deadwood asking everybody, what do you think of Velo and AERO combining? I think this is massive, and it's nothing but upside. You're combining the platforms, the liquidity, the team, the development team, all of it. It's all being combined, and so it's just going to be a laser focus on one platform. If you want a DeFi dashboard to look at every morning, Seth, go to the links in the description of the episode or the channel, and go to Metrics Finance. Jake, that's on the Wednesday show. He's the one that developed it. You don't need to connect your wallet. You just copy and paste your address. It will automatically read the positions that you're in, the DeFi positions. Not all of them, but most of them. And it will give you all the data. It will show you, your profit and loss, your versus hodl, all the different analytics that you're going to want. So yeah, go to Metrics Finance, use the free version. If you're just getting started, once you get, around $10,000 or more, in DeFi, it will probably benefit you to get like maybe the $50 a month package, because there's some added functionality that's going to save you money. But just keep an eye on it, because I always tell people, make sure that if you're going to invest $50 a month in something like that, that it's making you or saving you at least that. So, it's paying for itself. I hope that makes sense. And then, of course, our newsletter. Our newsletter, we're dropping a lot of really good information in that one, and that's only $20 a month. Let's see. And Trump's passing the ball to Coinbase for the dunk. Y'all might have to explain that one. Yeah, no, $100 a day is great. Absolutely. I mean, that's been my focus for a while now, is just to steadily earn $100 a day. Because if I can earn $100 a day, again, that's $3,000 a month of free crypto. And it's just, I mean, where else are you going to be able to make, $3,000? And I've maybe like 20 or 30,000, in different positions to earn that. So that's not bad. It's a pretty good return. Yeah, it's much better than chasing random crap on the market. Again, just buy Bitcoin, buy ETH, buy solid projects, and just earn with them, no matter what the market does. Hell, if the markets don't take off, this might be my savings account. My DeFi just might be my high yield savings account that whenever I need money, I pulled the money out. Any thoughts on that Velo merger with AERO? What happens to Velo? So the Velodrome platform will go away, Shiba, and the Velo token. If you hold the Velo token, then there's going to be a swap. Basically, if you hold the Velo token, you'll get the new AERO token. If you hold the old AERO token, you'll get the new AERO token. So they're just combining everything. I'll let you know as I find out, what that process is going to look like. If it's just going to be automatic, because it's all on, base chain, and, maybe they'll just do, the old tokens will just disappear out of your wallet and the new ones will, or, you'll have to approve something. I don't know, but that's what they're saying, is basically it's just going to be a swap for them. I'll see what I can do. See if we can get Luke Youngblood on here. I would love to have somebody that's super knowledgeable on this, speak on it. This episode is a little bit impromptu. I really wish these ALX 2049 people would just stop with the shilling. I need to get me a ban button like Drew got. All right. Listen to the Unchained podcast with Coinbase, Moonwell, and Morpho. It will make bullish for life. I'll have to check that out. All right. Well, I'm going to cut this off. I've been live for an hour and a half. I wasn't planning on going live today, but I definitely wanted to talk about this in a nutshell. If you just joined us or maybe missed this, if you hold AERO, you are going to be pleasantly surprised. If you hold VELO, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. If you're bullish on Base Network, the Base app, and the future of DeFi, and you're involved in Aerodrome, if you have locks, liquidity pools, whatever, you are going to be happy. And till next time, Veteran Crypto out.